Hey, CDA, and today we are going to be setting up a dark fog farm. Last time around, we turned this second planet into something that actually looks like a factory, which is good considering we're playing a factory game. It's completely cleared of enemies, hopefully. Yes, no enemies inside. So that means that if we want to set up a dark fog farm, we're going to have to do so on the other planet that we have left in our solar system. So let's see, where is it? It's over here. Dominic, it's your turn. However, as you can see, all the enemies that we've defeated so far have relocated to the second planet. When I started on the second planet and clearing that out, there were only, I think, two or three of these bases on this planet. As you can see, it's, I think it's 16, if I counted correctly, something like that anyway. We'll find out soon enough. However, we're going to have to do some prep work in order to actually set up that dark fog farm, because that's not going to be an easy task whatsoever. So I'm going to jump into a sandbox game for a moment, because we need to redesign kind of our beachhead blueprint. This is the blueprint that I used to clear out the second planet, and we're going to use that to clear most of the third planet out as well. However, I'm kind of thinking we should probably modernize this a little bit. So let's see. We're going to need a little bit more room because I want to fit an ILS in here. So let's cut out half of this, then delete the bottom half like this, and then just paste back in. And this is why I like sandbox mode, no fussing around with anything like materials. You can even set the building speed over here. Where is it? Here, you can set the build frames to something like 5 times. And as you can see, it gets built pretty much instantly. You can actually put it a little bit higher, but if you are building large blueprints, that's not going to do your FPS any good. So I want to kind of just put an ILS in the middle of this. That's not an ILS, this is something like this. And then this ILS is going to be bringing in things like fuel, something like missiles, and we're going to also bring in the shells. Where are the shells? There. So basically everything we need in order to power these generators. We need the shells, of course, for the implosion cannons, and then the rockets for the missile turrets. Now let me connect all of this back up. There we go. Everything linked back up. I'm actually going to leave maybe one box in here. The reason for that is that if I have any surplus things like fuel on me, I can just dump that in here, and that should take care of itself. Remember, there's a filter on here that makes sure that the missiles are only going to go to the rocket launchers, and anything else in terms of fuel is going to go into the actual fuel generators. Now, there is another thing that I changed, thanks to one of you pointing this out in the comments. I actually initially had these belts that are putting out fuel type of things towards this generator, only all the way up here. So basically this little part of the belt was missing into this single fuel generator. However, there's probably going to be more than that coming out. Well, not necessarily, actually. There might not be enough fuel coming out of the dark fog. But, well, yeah, there's no reason not to just have this connected to the rest of the belts, just in case we have an overflow of fuel. And by doing so, making sure that the other generators can use it as well. Now, of course, I did that everywhere around, so you can see the same thing happening over here, etc., etc. Just connecting everything up. Now, there is a really weird thing that happens with these blueprints, is that every now and then when I put it down, as you can see over here, this doesn't actually get connected, and it keeps reoccurring for some reason. I think it has something to do with the shifting of the grid, maybe? I don't know. It simply doesn't seem to like the combination of this small bridge and this T intersection over here. Not entirely sure if you've had this problem as well. If you know how to solve it, let me know. But honestly, I found I'm just reconnecting this intersection every now and then. And you spend so much time waiting for this to be built because you're doing so without power, so you can't have the battlefield analysis bases helping you, that I figured, well, might as well just do that little bit of manual labor myself. It gives me something to do while I'm waiting. Well, back on the normal planet, despite all of this activity, we actually need quite a bit of resources to keep everything going, and for that reason, over here, I've built some more mining setups, just mining pretty much every type of resource, just a little bit more of everything to make sure the basic buildings I have over here are actually in production. Now, honestly, you don't really need that much production at all, considering at this stage of the game, we're mostly just slowly dragging ourselves through yellow signs, and that's mostly being limited by the oil production we have on the other planet. So if you want to speed things up, go to the other planet, build some more things like organic crystals and stuff like that, and then have everything be completed faster. However, we're not trying to do a speedrun here, we're trying to build a dark fog farm. Still, I needed to have some basic production up and running before I left. Now, while I was collecting some stuff in order to start invading the other planet, I'm actually getting attacked on my home planet. And as you can see, it's only 4 units, but these 4 units are going to take a heavy toll on my base. And now I need to go and jump back to make sure stuff doesn't die. And well, this wave apparently got defeated, but that's not going to take care of itself for very long. Okay, there we go. It's just a tiny little base, or at least it's a tiny little base for now, but this will quickly grow into a stronghold if you don't take these out quickly. So keep an eye on the other planets while you're trying to, well, do anything on one of the other planets. We're going to have to deal with that pretty soon as well, because I don't feel like flying back and forth between all my planets all the time. But for now, I just want to make sure we start the actual fight on the main planet. However, while I was here, I noticed that my oil reserve was actually completely filled up, so I connected some more belts to make sure we have the overflow of oil going into some useful directions, and we can actually make sure that the hydrogen production still keeps going, because as long as this is completely full, of course, we're not actually making any new oil. Actually, this is not the most efficient way to do this, because as you can see, these facilities are still not doing anything, and it's because this belt should probably go something like this, so that this thing can actually empty itself into this one, and then this other one can actually empty itself over here, and then both these facilities, or at least these lines of facilities, can start producing. Now, why is this important? Well, we need stuff for things like organic crystals, because if we don't get those, we won't get any titanium crystals, and then we don't get any yellow cyan. So it's pretty important that the oil production is up and running for as long as we can have it without spending too much attention on it. Okay, so with 2 planets left safe and completely cleared, we can take the fight to the 3rd planet. And as you can see, there are so many bases on here. I need to be a little bit careful where I land, but by the looks of it, they were kind enough to leave about half the planet completely open to me. Yes, I'm safe here, right? Looks like it. So we have all of these enemies on this side of the planet. You can see a few of these baby bases. They won't stay small for very long, but there's one over here as well. So these are ones that relocated. How many do we have over here? Like 15, 16 bases. Okay, that's going to be fun. They were nice enough to leave this half of the planet completely empty, so let's set up some bases to start harassing them. Okie dokie, just stamping down the blueprint that we have. Now, learning from what we've saw last time, I'm actually going to keep my bases close together, as you can see over here. A couple of these things are not showing as they are being built. I should have enough. I took out a couple of the implosion cannons from my inventory, so they were stacked up in the virtual inventory over here. So we should be able to build everything. Now, once again, don't power anything up until you're ready to defend yourself, because you're going to be attacked like a second later. Not entirely sure about this location, honestly. I could have gone a little bit more to the middle over here, take a bit more distance. There's actually a benefit I feel from being close to some of these initial bases, because we can easily take them out. Now, not entirely sure yet which bases we are going to leave up for the farm, because remember, we're not actually going to take out all of these bases. We do want maybe a handful of them available. Maybe a little bit less than that, but let's start working on actually clearing some out. The nice thing about all of these bases being close together is that it doesn't really matter which ones we take out. We do ideally want to leave up some bases that we're going to farm that are close together, because that just makes it a lot more convenient in terms of setting up defenses around that. Now, just to prove my point why I think having an ILS in this design is really useful, as you can see, we already have some vessels flying in and out. It's a little bit hard to tell with all the holograms coming through. But basically, as you can see, we already have missiles being delivered, we have shells being delivered, and all of that is happening even though there's no power to the ILS. Remember, only the ILS that is sending out stuff, or sending out vessels, I should say, needs to be powered. This one is not powered, but it can still receive items from another ILS that is powered. So just keep in mind that this is a very convenient way to get some more resources on this planet. Of course, I brought some shells and missiles and stuff like that with me, but hey, there's nothing wrong with having more missiles on the planet where we have 16 bases to destroy. Another thing to consider is that you could actually decide to just manually build the battlefield analysis bases and some power connections to that. And as soon as you have everything up and running in terms of power, these battlefield analysis bases will start building everything that's close to them. So you could chance it and just power stuff up and then hope your battlefield analysis bases are quick enough to build everything else before the first waves come in. Of course, you do need to make sure you have enough battlefield analysis bases up to do that. And you also need to make sure you don't have too many of these white holograms, because they will actually need to be built either by you, or you need to place buildings inside of these analysis bases in order to build them for you. I do not recommend that approach. I'm just saying, if you are trying to live on the edge, or you just want to leave that for like the last few pieces of belt or something like that, that is something you could do. Now, in the meanwhile, since I split up this thing a little bit more and actually took some more space, as you can see, we don't have any implosion cannons on the side anymore, and I think we might need a little bit more defense. I'm really close now actually to the enemy base, so this is cutting it a little close. What we could do, actually I need more of these, that's annoying. But what we could do is set up something like this. We could actually take out some of the implosion cannons from the middle over here, because these don't really serve a purpose. And we could also take out the belt. Don't want to take out the entire belt, just the part that's no longer useful. And then relocate that basically to this direction. You can just draw from the belts that we already have, maybe do something like this. And then similarly build a couple more of these over here. Actually, if we want to make this a little bit more clean, what we could do is delete this belt and then feed this in from this side. Just makes it a little bit more efficient. It's not super needed, but hey, it's a little bit more defense on the sides, because we are going to get hit from that side really hard. I'm going to do the same on this side, and then probably, although not necessarily on this side as well, we're not going to be hit as hard, but maybe in this corner over here, because we are going to get some waves from that direction. Okay, there we go. I think this looks a lot more sturdy in terms of defense against these near dark fog. Okie dokie, everything is built, at least most of it is built. I'm ready to go, and let's see. I actually changed the fuel type to energetic graphite for the simple reason that I'm actually producing way more of this than I was producing the combustible units. They're more efficient, so I should probably change that around at some point. But for now, we just want to make sure we actually have power. So let's work with what we have. Something else I actually did initially in the blueprint, I actually had these towers being powered. So there was a power tower right next to it, somewhere in the corner like this. I took that away because initially when this starts up, you don't want these things charging at 30 megawatts. And there's 4 of them, so that's 120 megawatts of energy going into these ILSs that we kind of are going to need on defense. And again, you don't need power to these ILSs in order to make them work. So yeah, just take that into consideration if you make defensive builds on a new planet that includes a power, or ILSs I should say. Now it's time to power everything up, so all we need to do is click a couple of these things like so, and then at some point everything should turn on. There we go. And the thread is going to shoot up, and we'll have visitors really soon. And there they are. Yeah, so you know the drill now. We are going to be heavily attacked. We are going to take out some of these waves, and then as soon as the first couple of waves are done, what we're going to do is we're going to put down a signal tower like this. We're going to have to rebuild some of the implosion towers as well, apparently. So that's a thing. That's a thing. This is all happening, by the way, because we're a little low on power. So initially, defending yourself is not going to be trivial, but as you can see, even with this kind of horrible defense, I am already able to work my way into shooting missiles at the enemy and trying to take out the first couple of bases. Now these first few bases are definitely going to be the hardest, because every base we take out just makes it that much easier to start defending ourselves. And the implosion towers are mostly there just to give a little bit of buffer between the enemy and the turrets, but all in all, as you can see, we're doing a fairly good job at keeping ourselves alive. The base is taking some damage. As long as we can do this whole war of attrition thing, we should be fine. Just remember to keep your bases safe like this. Okay, well, this is going to take a while, so be right back. Now, while advancing on the enemy, every now and then you get attacked with so many units at the same time. As you can see, I still have like, I can count, like 12 bases up. I took out a couple of them by now. But as you can see, we have like almost 1,000 units coming at us at the same time now. So every now and then you might want to advance in a backwards direction. You're never retreating, just advancing in the backwards direction. That's what we call this. And the reason that you're doing this is just to give yourself a little bit of breathing room, basically. So the more spread out across the planet there are, the less focused your missiles are going to be, which is not necessarily a very effective way to do your offense. So if you just retreat all the way back to your little home base that you built for yourself over here, that actually gives you a little bit of breathing room just from the distance that the enemy will have to travel, but also because you don't have like a few billion waves attacking you at the same time, especially if those waves are attacking you at the sides. Right now, for example, we could try and go for this base. There's a 5 waves coming in, so we might want to wait a moment for that. But just to try and show my point, I'm not entirely sure where the waves are coming from, but as you can see, this gives me a moment to actually start my offense again and take out a part of that base. And every time you take out a part of the base, you're winning. So you don't have to completely destroy a base in one go. Every time you chip away at it, you are making progress. But now, as you can see, we have hundreds of units again coming in over here. So we can just retreat backwards, wait for another breathing space in the attack waves, and then do the same thing over and over. Just whittle away at the base until it's completely gone. Now, I just realized I actually didn't hook up a ILS to the main missile production we had on the first planet. So I actually jumped back here to make sure that we got exactly that going, just to make sure I don't run out of rockets on the offense planet. The base is still defending itself quite nicely, so no problem there. We're going to get some aerial attacks soon as well, but again, that shouldn't be a problem. We set up the defenses for that last time around, so this planet, as you can see, has a nice little shield going on, and the same thing is happening on the second planet where we have the main factory. But yeah, you definitely want to make sure you don't run out of rockets. You're spending like thousands upon thousands of rockets on a planet like that, so make sure that you have your production connected to everything else and that you don't run out of resources while you're producing missiles, for example, either. Okay, so it took me, I think, like an hour or maybe somewhere close to 2 maybe to whittle at all these bases, but as you can see, we brought it down to a handful of bases now. I'm still not entirely sure we want to leave all of these up, but for now they seem manageable. They're nicely bunched up. My base is still doing its job, but as you can see, it's a lot quieter now on this planet without like 5 million of these things flying around. They have leveled up, so they're all level 12 now, so the units are definitely stronger. Oh, look at this. Just look at this. Beautiful. Anyway, yeah, let's design an actual farm. So the way I want to do this is I actually want to set up a defensive line fairly close to a couple of these bases. So we're going to use at least like these 2 or 3. Not sure about the ones in the back. Set up a defensive line, maybe somewhere over here, and then behind that we're going to basically have a circular belt going into ILSs that are going to distribute all of those nice little resources we're going to get from all of those dark fog being killed. Okay, so step 1, we need the defensive line, and I'm going to borrow a page from my own book. This is very similar to what we've already been doing. As you can see, we have implosion cannons over here. My mouse is going haywire. There we go. We have implosion cannons over here. We have some laser turrets actually behind that. The main reason I want to start using laser turrets now is because they don't need fuel. Honestly, I would prefer to have everything run on non-fuel, but that's not possible because we definitely still need the missile turrets at this point. And of course, the missile turrets are the main offense and defense over here. So these are going to do the brunt of the work. We are producing a lot of missiles, so that shouldn't be a problem. At least not for the near future. And of course we have a signal tower behind that that's covering most of the area in front, so we are we have both an offense and defense here going, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I do need to fit in some battlefield analysis bases to make sure everything stays alive though, so how are we going to do that? Okay, there we go. So there's a battlefield analysis base over here and one over here. I actually left a spot for a laser turret as well as one for the implosion cannon. So if we want, we can actually request those over here in this ILS. assuming we're actually making enough of these and we are exporting them. But at that point, we can bring them in here and make sure we can actually auto-replace and repair any bases that need that. I'm guessing we don't need to do that for the rocket launchers. I'm hoping we don't need that, because if these are going to be taken out, then probably the first few lines of defense are gone already and we're in huge trouble. But yeah, might as well make sure this base is able to repair itself. Now, honestly, I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with the front line. I'm probably going to build another line of battlefield analysis bases and signal towers, like alternating them in front, because that's just a very sturdy defensive line to kind of wall off the implosion cannons. But I'm actually going to leave them out of the blueprint just because I'm not entirely sure they're going to be needed across the entire line. So we'll just have to find out, I suppose. Now let's worry about the actual sorter. The idea behind the sorter is really, really simple. We're going to have a belt where I'm going to start out with a Mark II belt because I'm mass producing this, but eventually we will definitely want this to be a Mark III belt. We have a main line going through like this. I'll probably cut that down a little bit. And then, because there's 5 items that fit into an ILS, of course, we can fit those in like so, and like so, and like so, and like so. Then all we need to do is set a filter to whatever we want to have go in here. Let's say it's ingots. And then we need to do that once for every single item that the Dark Fog can drop. Now remember, if you want to check out what that is, you can actually check the Dark Fog drop filter. That's a mouthful. And it will show you what the Dark Fog can actually currently drop. Now, weirdly enough, because I'm in sandbox mode, I'm not entirely sure why this is, but it's not showing me the unique Dark Fog items, like the fuel and the other stuff, the research items that the Dark Fog definitely does drop. For some reason, they're not showing up in this list, so probably because I only have a level 0 Dark Hive over here. Not entirely sure why that is. Just keep that in mind if you're making your own blueprints in a sandbox mode. But the nice thing of a very simple layout like this is that we can just select it, so we can copy and paste, and then we can stick the next one to it. I'm actually going to leave a little bit of extra room between these stations, just to make sure I don't get into issues with the grid or anything like that. Something like that. Is it actually aligned to the grid now? Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. It's slightly off grid, so let me fix that and make sure that all the distances between the ILSs are equal. Now we're going to need something like 65 items if you actually want to collect everything from the Dark Fog. So that means we're going to need at least 12 of these, probably a little bit more. So this is going to be a lot of ILSs. Okay, so I did my counting, and if I counted correctly, we are going to have enough from these 60 spaces we have in these ILSs. So if I counted correctly, we are going to need 59 item spaces. So we actually are left with one open spot that we could use for warpers if that's what we want, which is an interesting thought. But the idea is that I'm going to hook up everything to a certain type of object. So as you can see, we have one here going for the special items. We have then the basics in the first one, more basics in the second, and basically I just went down the list and connected everything up. I'm about halfway through, but the thing I wanted to point out here that is worth keeping in mind is that this entire belt thing needs to be circular. So it starts wherever, and it's going to run all the way through here, and then it goes down to the third line over here, and then at the third line we're actually going to bring it all the way through again, but past the second line, all the way back to the start. Now the reason I'm doing it like that is because I want to be able to connect this little sorter unit to any of these battlefield analysis spaces that might be standing around. Doesn't matter where they are, they just need to be able to be connected to this belt. And by doing it like this, no matter where I feed in the random items from the battlefield analysis base, remember there's going to be over 50 different types of items coming out of that stuff, so it needs to be going through the entire filter in order to end up in the ILS where it needs to go. Now there's some other tricks to that I will show you in a moment when we're actually implementing this, but this is the idea behind it. So basically it's one big circle just in a little bit alternative shape, and with filters attached to everything. Now, something that is really important to remember is do not power these ILSs. If you do, that's how many? 12 ILSs draining your power from your defenses. If you have that power, that's not a problem, but typically that's going to be a whole lot of power to drain from your planet. I mean, it's going to be over 360 megawatts of power, if I did my math correctly, because you can set these lower than 30, so that's 12 times 30 of 360 megawatts. If you have that to spare, then you're probably somewhere in the end game, but initially you're probably not going to be able to field that much power, spare power on a planet that doesn't need to go towards the actual defense. Now with that in mind, I multiplied the defense layout that I just showed you a couple of times like this, and now we have a nice little defensive line like this. We have the sorter in the back, the power is not connected, so this is completely unpowered. We can either add in some of the battle stations that we were using before on the sides, that's probably what I'm going to be doing. And then also in the back, but ideally you don't need to place any defense at the back because, well, the Dark Fog is going to be over here. And then you can set this up, for example, with some additional power to make sure everything keeps working. Dear Lord, the people keep landing on my other planets and I'm really tired of that. And honestly, I think by now I can probably set the defenses of this planet to make sure that we have no one landing on our planets anymore, because I keep running up and down between my planets to defend them. It's gaining me a lot of power, so there's not entirely no upside to it. I mean, up to 225 megawatts of power on this planet without even trying, but still, it's getting a little bit annoying. So let's go to my missile turrets. Let's set the upper air to a high priority as well. And upper air is basically where the relay stations land once they try to attack your planet. And I can just copy paste that setting into all of this like so. And now if any relay station comes into range of my rocket launchers, they will instantly start shooting it from the air. Now that does mean that we're going to be attacked from the air. So once again, let's just double check our coverage of the shields. It's mostly fine, but I'm probably going to have to add in a shield somewhere over here to make sure my mining operation here is safe. I also need to replace these miners because a couple of the stray units took those out. We're still being attacked only on the planet where we want to be attacked, so that's fine. Did I leave out any other? Yeah, we might actually want to place down a couple of shields over here. Now, there's actually two ways to make sure no one lands on your planet. One is actually just covering the entire planet in shields. That's a little bit of work to do, but honestly, it's not that much work. At the same time, as long as you have the rocket launcher spread across your planet, they take care of it as well. So either way works just fine. Having your entire planet covered in shield is probably something that looks really nice and I want to do at some point. But let's keep it simple for now and just rely on our rocket launchers. Okay, so I'm back on the main planet where we want to set up our farm. I cleared out some of the stuff over here so we can actually place it. I also took out one of the bases. They bring the whole total down to 4. There were a couple of new bases on the planet as well that I took out. So just some baby bases, basically. That, of course, got popped back up because those relay stations that were flying off because we put a geothermal in there do try to come back somewhere else. But let's see. We have the farm here. Let's flip that around so it's the right way up. And how close do we want to get? Probably not too close. Doesn't really matter too much, I believe. Just a little bit from the edge. I need to take it down a few notches, like so. And that is a whole lot of stuff to start building. However, we also need a couple of these battle stations. Let's see, we can fit in one over here. I'm going to get attacked from this side, I believe. Oh, there's some foundation issues over here, but I'm going to place one over there. And then I want to fit in another one over here, just in between. Hopefully that will fit. We might have to take out one implosion cannon because there's going to be a geothermal over here. And then we also need to make sure we flatten this. But basically, one base over here, one base over here. And then we have the backside undefended, but there should not be any attacks from that side because all the enemies are there. And once that is done building, it looks something like this. Exactly how I planned it. I took out the implosion cannon so we can put a geothermal there. Remember, nothing about this is powered. Everything is still attacking over here. And the reason I put it over here is also because all the attack waves are going to go like that while we were building this. And actually, I was cutting it a little bit close because as you can see, some of these angles are almost going directly through my base if it wasn't for the forward bases I have over here distracting the enemy. So make sure you take that into consideration before you start building your new factory or your new layouts. I have these windmills over here just to provide a little bit of extra power, because remember, we are going to be powering up 6 ILSs initially, which is far from ideal, but actually we don't need to power all of these up. We can just turn these off. Thank you, TDA, so smart. Here we go. We do not want to power these ones down. We can't even, because there's a signal tower next to them powering them up. But we can definitely take out these two. This is just gonna save us a little bit of power. I'm not actually getting in anything like that, so maybe we can demand some of that. No? I think the other... we might have a power problem here, because I think the other stations are requesting all of that stuff. Yeah. So it's being flown over here. We're actually consuming quite a bit, so you can always transfer some of the stuff from this base over to the other one as soon as you're good to go. However, the main power is not going to come from those thermal bases anyway, but it's going to come from all of these geothermals that we have up and running now that I connected up. Most of them are in a safe position compared to where the enemy is, so that should supply us with quite a bit of power. Let's check the power network over here. How much we have. So we have 147 megawatts, which isn't actually too much. I was actually expecting it to be a little bit more. Did I skip any of these bases? There's one over here that we're not using. We won't be able to use that one, it's too close. There's also one over here that we could probably sneak into as soon as we get everything up and running. So yeah, there's definitely... Oh, well, there's... Oh no, that's the one that I was looking at. Okay, anyway. That's why we also built a couple of windmills, just to get a little bit of extra power going. It's not going to be much, but still. And of course, there's going to be geothermal over here. Now, actually, if I place that one down, I think everything should power up. Like that. Yay! Look, rockets! Now, how bad is our power doing? Honestly, the initial start is probably going to be the roughest. 84%, so yeah, we're definitely a little bit low. As you can see, we're under attack, and I'm probably going to have to add in that buffer wall that I was talking about before, especially early on, because this is going to be hammered. Okay, so I put in all the additional defenses, and it looks like we're kind of holding on our edges of our seed. I mean, we're defending ourselves okay, but we're definitely still struggling for power at 50%, thanks to all these ILSs draining my power, so that's far from ideal. I tried to power up these ones as well. That might have been a bad idea, but yeah, let's just leave it be. We seem to be handling ourselves. As you can see, we have our whole farm up and running. Very nicely done, so there's a ton of items coming in already. It looks a lot more than it is if you're looking for a specific item, because of course remember that this is just a Mark II belt completely filled up, but it's filled up with all kinds of different items, so we're getting a little bit of everything. I actually stopped the droppings of log and plant fuel for the very simple reason that I'm not using these for any, so that seems like kind of a waste. Yeah, but other than that, you can see we are getting in all kinds of stuff, and it's being exported to our main planet whenever we reach the threshold of a full vessel. So that's pretty cool. Now, honestly, I think this is a little bit of overkill. We have 4 bases attacking us non-stop. I am going to prune a few. And by the power of a jump cut, as you can see, we only have 2 bases left now, nice and sweet in front of our defensive line. They're all spread out, so that makes it really easy to pick everything off. A couple of these units are for whatever reason attacking me from the side as well. Not entirely sure why that is, but we'll be able to handle that with these stray units. And yeah, as you can see, we have the whole farm up and running now. It's actually, let me check. So there's hundreds of thrusters and stuff like that in here. There are some supermagnetic rings. There is particle containers. We actually have particle broadband and grading crystals, the rare recipe in here as well, so we can start making some advanced mining machines, assuming we do the technology for that. You also actually get some explosive units in here. even Casimir crystals and stuff like that. And reinforced thrusters are very expensive to make, as you might know. So yeah, we're getting a little bit of everything. Now, this is not going to be sufficient to power your entire factory or anything like that, but it's going to be a massive increase in terms of just random production that you get, especially as soon as we upgrade these to Mark III belts, because remember, we're running at Mark II now, so it's only 12 items per second at the most that we're bringing in, and you can see this battlefield analysis base completely filled up because it can't actually export all its items. That's not the point, that's not really important. But assuming we upgrade these belts, that's of course going to massively increase the throughput. So yeah, there you have it. A nice little dark fog farm setup over here. Is it worth it? Honestly, I don't know. It took me like 1.5 hours to actually clear the planet, and then another 1.5 hours to stabilize to the point where we are now, something like that. Not counting the time it took me to design everything and stuff like that. Of course, that you only have to do that once, but still. Just clearing out the planet and putting some shields in there and then defending yourself against the hives is probably the more straightforward way of doing this, but I'll leave it up to you. It is kind of cool to actually take advantage of the dark fog and get all of these free items, so it's definitely worth doing at least once, I would say. Now, in the next episode, let me know, what do you want to see? Because we kind of did everything we can do. We have all the 3 planets in our home system under control now. That means we have access to all the resources, so we can start working on purple and green science. Let me know, where do you want to take this playthrough from here? Either way, if you're still here, you're awesome, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.